Salve omnes, I am Ruminus, and today we are talking about the user interface, the UI, and the user experience, UX, for video games. I decided to lump the UI and UX together into the same video, as I'm not going into incredible depth, and because what is helpful for one is often helpful for the other. UI is often the term used for menus, sliders, and the actual settings for the game, whereas UX is the term used for HUDs and graphical displays that the user experiences. The UX and UI can be intertwined, where colors, shape design, and all that kind of stuff can mess with each other. As with everything else, the design, scope, and setting of the game can determine and alter how these are designed, but I will give some general rules for how to present information in your game. I learned some of this the hard way while I was teaching because I failed miserably and made things with a bad UI or with a bad UX. Concisity. Be brief, be concise. The screen should not be compact with information as it can cause cognitive overload. Some are good at dissecting copious information, but many are not, and you should always aim to appease the majority. I am good at compact, dense information, but this is too much. Too many things are happening at once and your brain can't focus. Description should also be brief, and having a character limit helps force everything to be concise. Menus and displays should also follow a similar pattern. Only show information when it is needed on a constant basis. As the crafting items are only used during crafting, they don't need to be shown at all times. It's helpful to show how much are in inventory when you're picking it up, as it's relevant information, but at all the times it's not really needed, so don't show it and convolute the entire screen. Oh my god. There's so much! It doesn't end! And then there's more! Civ 6 has menus which are chaotic, but still concise, as all of these are needed on a constant basis. RTS or real-time strategy games, Generals, Zeus, Sims, will need the player to act in real time, and so need all these options at all times. Then we lead into organization. Menus, text, view, and display should fall into logical categories and organization. You don't want the player to look everywhere for important information or get lost in menus. Health, stamina, magic should all be close to each other, as they are important in battle situations for a quick check on the characters. Options and manipulative mechanics should be in a logical group. Sensitivity is sometimes placed in gameplay, others in visual. Subtitles either in audio or video. You don't lump menus within menus if it is unneeded. My computer files are very compact, but to somebody else, it's very convoluted. My original menus for my game were as well until I expanded them because they were too concise. You don't want to have to go back through other menus to do basic changes, but you also don't want to have things too concise or too compact where it's way too convoluted, where it's hard to see what's going on. Buttons should also be consistent across menus and not cause confusion for the player, and the big one for this one is to confirm or reject an option that's going along. Keep the button for accepting to accept through every menu, and the button to deny or reject to deny or reject. Otherwise, you lead in with confusion or people trying to skip through and getting mad or frustrated when it doesn't follow through. The boxes per level is shown in Crash 3, but only when the player requests it with the triangle button, otherwise it is hidden. Putting it at the bottom could cause issues with the platforming, and constantly having it on screen at the top with the Wumpa Fruit and lives could distract or just straight interfere with the view of the player. Everything that is collected is in a single section and doesn't interfere with the gameplay unless the player chooses it. In this atrocity, the menu is horribly organized and it is unclear where to go to get to certain modes. All of the different options have different sizes. The description at the bottom shows game modes, customizing a fighter and a vault, whatever that is, and more. Those are so varied and all over the place that I have no idea what to find in it, and this leads into the next section of legibility. For legibility, you don't want colors to clash, you don't want text to be too small or too much. Reticles can vary, but must likewise be able to be seen at all times. Spacing in between options is necessary for clarity. Some players are more blind or have visual impairments, or may have good vision but playing from farther away. Text should be against a contrasting background. Black outline with a shadow and with white text is my preferred method. No matter if it's against a white or black background, the text is legible. When selecting anything, it should be clear by underlining, highlighting, darkening other options, or whatever what is being modified or chosen. Color can easily help enhance the user experience as well in the game to invoke an emotion, set the scene, or show a transition or change. Prompts on screen should be large enough to be able to be read, but not so big to overshadow other elements on screen. For Mass Effect, the text is white without a background. However, the developers purposely positioned the wheel where it would not cause an issue. As such, the text being lost is not much of an issue. The selected text is highlighted both in the wheel and the text, and the Renegade and Paragon actions are clearly marked with red and blue colors respectively. For Mega Man Legends 2, everything is spaced apart, there's enough blank space, everything is large enough to read, items have barriers or clear table cells. The displays only show as much as they must. Clear boundaries exist between the health, radar, super juice, map, and other similar HUDs or visual displays. Then we lead into the ease of access. I would have called this accessibility, but that has been changed into something else. These options, both in the game and in the pause menu, should be easy to access and logical. If it takes too long to upgrade or to get to the upgrade station, players are discouraged from using it, or they may forget about it. Changing weapons or apparel, interacting with the world, accessing resources and upgrades are all gameplay and mechanics as well, but follow into the interface and experience. This is where developers should write a thematic mechanic to explain a better upgrade system, or just ignore the consistency if possible for better gameplay. When developing thematic mechanics, be careful not to impede the UI or the UX. If certain aspects or mechanics take too long or are too far away, players will likely be annoyed and not bother, or they will forget, and all the work to make these things will be lost and wasted. When I initially planned for my special attacks, the player had to go back to a certain part of the game, sometimes far away, to learn and use these new powers, but I realized this was really limiting, took a lot of time, and was just straight annoying and frustrating. So what I did is I changed the thematic, I changed the story to something that's a little less realistic or less in tune with the rest of the game. However, it was something that was much more conducive to improve the flow, in line with the thematics, and improve the UI and UX. So I learned something pretty cool today. Ape Escape 2 is a PlayStation 2 game that was put on the PlayStation Network for the 4. And now I'm playing it on a 5. All games that are on the 4 can be played on the 5, but they're not always compatible, which is what you can clearly see going on. And to be honest, I find that awesome. Ape Escape 2 has plenty of gadgets to capture the Scandalous Simians, but can only select 4 at a time for quick selection. This is due to a limitation of technology, but allows the player to choose the 4 most used gadgets and not have to go into the menu each time to change them. What the developers did to help make it easier to access was assigning the gadget wheel to the select button to avoid the other menus to get to this menu. What would have helped additionally was to put prompts to immediately change to the gadget when you're in areas where a certain gadget must be used to avoid even pressing the select button. A good example of reflecting on UI and UX is the difference in the leveling systems between Oblivion and Fallout 3. The leveling system in Oblivion is difficulty of access, as it requires the player to sleep in a bed in order to level up. This requires the player to leave whatever mission or exploration to find an unknown bed, which are rare outside cities, then come back to the mission or whatever they're doing. No other setting or equipment requires this, so it makes no sense thematically, and at least with Fallout 3, they changed it so that the player can just level up from anywhere. The UI could have easily accepted a level up option and saved the hassle in Oblivion, but that's what they chose to do. Normally I have 2 games, one with generally poor design in this topic throughout the game, and another with generally good design. Since UI and UX are so expansive, it is difficult to find a game that fits these criteria entirely, or to concisely point these out. Instead, I will focus on a game with great UI and UX for its menus, and another for its gameplay. We start off with concisity. The menus show only what is needed to. There isn't so much that it's overwhelming, and the icons at the bottom show the purpose of each subcategory, although it can be a little unclear until enough time has been spent with the game. We do run into the issue where things are a little too concise, and maybe it could have been benefited with another subcategory, another icon, but it works well enough. For organization, the menus are separated by type of information or resource. It starts with all the items, but then the subcategories of weapons, armor, potions, and all others. Then there are other sections for character stats, another for spells, and a final one for the map and journal. The spells could have gone into the items category with the weapons, but since they separate them by class as well, and there are so many, it makes sense to give its own category. but there's clear organization of the overall theme, then more specific. For legibility, there's enough blank space. Nothing is too cluttered, although I would argue that most of the items are too big, and actually having more per page would be helpful. The menu color is a cream and the items are in a black, giving a clear contrast. The game outside is mostly covered, except what is blurred by a dark fog to obscure the game and put the menu in focus. Each menu item also has an icon to show what it resembles: an axe for weapons, cuirass for armor, a person icon on the spells to show that the spell affects the player's character instead of other NPCs. Icons for the map are all distinct and again on a cream background for visibility. Items are listed alphabetically, but currently used items are highlighted for easy determination. And then we leave off with ease of access. The menu will open up to the last used page, so switching and testing spells, weapons, or armor is streamlined, and the menu only takes a second to change between major components. I would have added an option to select skills in the menu, then show leveling bars for them at the bottom of the screen to show progress. The reason being is that the higher levels can get annoying if you don't really know how much progress you're making because they require so much experience. Again, we'll start with concisity. The visual display only shows what is needed. You have the barrier, reticle, gun and ammo, status of power regeneration, and your squad mates. Not too much is shown, and there's enough space in between the items to not cover the whole screen. There are separate bars for squad mate barriers and power, although the power bar just shows that it's ready or baking, instead of how close or to ready the throw is to get this butthead away from me. For organization, the reticle and power regeneration are located together at the center of the screen, where they will clearly be seen in the midst of combat. The squad mates are smaller and out of the way together, although difficult to check when Harbinger is really giving you the business. The ammo is off to the side and not in the way of combat, and enemy health is at the top, away from all the other displays. All info is clearly defined, organized, and kept away from the others. For legibility, the colors don't clash. Everything is large enough to read and see easily at a quick glance. The orange outline around the selected enemy is clear, although difficult to change when enemies are close, and there's enough empty space to parse everything while roaming or in combat. For ease of access, we have 3 personal powers, and 1 power for each squad mate can be given speed dial with a specific button to help reduce the need for the menu, although the class-specific power can't be reassigned for whatever reason that makes no sense to me whatsoever. The same can be done to switch between the 2 most recently used weapons. I think they could have used more shortcuts for more powers, as there are 5 possible slots in the early game, and only 2 can be quickly assigned. Upgrades and changes to equipment must be done before each mission, although the game will allow changes before a major fight. The UI and UX encompass the entire game, but there are some general rules to follow when you're designing the text, the levels, the items, or any other really asset in the game. You want to make the text visible, easy to see, and easy to navigate. Try to mitigate any instance where players need to pause the game or go into a menu for something simple. This isn't always possible, but for major aspects and mechanics, we want the player to keep playing the game. Make levels, menus, and equipment organized in a simple manner. Don't make it too convoluted or so obtuse that the players need to search for where something is. Basically, is it easy to figure out what is happening, or will it take unnecessary time and effort to do what we are trying to do? If so, consider reworking the actions or visuals to make it more streamlined. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified of future videos. If you have any constructive criticism of things that you think that I missed, got wrong, or you want to add on to, or games with good, bad, or unique UI UXs, please put them in the comment section below so that we can continue this discourse. But until next time, where we talk about visuals and graphics, Wale te omnes.